Great. So welcome everybody to Enhancing the Accountant Bookkeeper Connection series. We are beginning now, and this is featuring Jonathan Carter from Cata Accounting, who is my friend, my colleague, my accountant. I am Tanya Hilt, CPB, FCPB, AIA, and L5CA, which is Level 5 Certified Advisor. And I am here because I am passionate about collaboration, and you can find me at Tanya's Bootcamp. There is some of my industry designations and accolades, recent business accolades. I'm not going to go through them. You guys can see them all. But I am very, very committed to the industry. So you can say I'm on Public Affairs Committee, Ethics and Discipline Committee, and I am a fellow with my CPB, which is Certified Professional Bookkeeper of Canada.
Oh,
So the quote, alone we can do so little, together we can do so much. And that is one of my favorite quotes about collaboration by Helen Keller. And this today is going to be a collaborative conversation, which I will let Jonathan actually say. For those who haven't figured it out, I'll let Jonathan say the title in his slide. Just to confirm, this webinar does qualify for CPD credits through CPB. There will be 2 polls that must both be answered in order to qualify.
He's gonna like send an email.
Just a second. I'm just gonna delete. The recording of the webinar and your CPD credits will be emailed within 2 days or by the weekend at the latest, depending on my daughter's time frame to be able to edit things out and get it properly uploaded. If you have unsubscribed, you will not get the email because it does go through Flowdesk, which sends out our email. If you don't receive it by the end of the weekend, give me a call. We are going to have to get you back into the list. So that's really, really important to get that. And do not unsubscribe unless you don't want to hear from us again, or you're going to have to repeat this process all over again. And of course, CPD is very important to some of us. So Jonathan, we've been collaborating with Jonathan and his team for a number of years. We've got, tons of mutual clients, more than any other accountant. I do always, when clients call and they don't have an accountant, I do like to give them multiple names. I do not like to give them just one name, but Jonathan is always in that name that I do give, because I can speak for the work. If there's anybody else out there on the call, if I don't refer you, it doesn't mean anything except for the fact that we've not actually worked together, because I will only refer somebody who I've actually done work with, that I can actually speak personally about. And that's just something that's just really important to me. If there's somebody in an area that I'm like, okay, I know this person, but I've never worked with them, then, I will still sometimes give that. But Jonathan is always on the name, the list of the name, because again, we've been working with Jonathan for probably a decade or more. Anyway, and Jonathan and his team pay very close attention to detail, and they provide outstanding customer service, which is part of why Jonathan is here as well. So I'm going to stop sharing and let Jonathan start and take it away.
Well, thank you, Tanya. So yeah, today we're talking about Get Connected. I'll do my quick intro. Founder of Cata Accounting Solutions. I was a member of the inaugural Intuit Accountants Council. I actually dug this out of storage. It's probably the last time I'll ever wear it, but we'll see. I've been working with Intuit pretty much since 2016 as well. I was a recipient of the 2018 Inspire Accountant Award. We are elite pro advisors. We are QBO Advanced certified and have made the top 100 pro advisor list 21, 22, and 23, and top 50 this year. And we were named CPB Firm of the Year last year, and that is by far the biggest honor we've received. We do work with a lot of bookkeeping firms, actually as the tax accountant and as collaborators, because we are notorious collaborators. And I think really the motto from this year's conference, I think, really puts it together. Together we thrive. I mean, Tanya and I, our journey has been very, very collaborative, and we have both gotten better by working together. The quality of the work that Cata produces has gotten better, and I know Tanya says that about us as well. And I love those kind of relationships. So our agenda is really open. It's really open. I do have some notes with some of my key takeaways, and there's definitely some things I want to talk about, but really This is about those who attended helping communicate and kind of bring together those ideas. Because one of my biggest problems with these conferences is I want to go to every session, and you can't go to every session. I want to go to every trade show booth, and you can't go to every, well, I mean, you could go to every trade show booth, but then you're missing sessions, things like that. So let's get our first poll question out of the way. Where was QuickBooks Get Connected held? A, Toronto, Calgary, Montreal. B, Toronto, Montreal, Vancouver. C, Ottawa, Montreal, Vancouver. D, Toronto, Montreal, Calgary, Vancouver, or E, online only. And really, these are two.
Okay, here we go.
Hey,
Yes,
awesome.
it's here.
I am going to not be able to vote.
Okay, and you know what? Hang on, the panelists can't vote, so there we go. Allow panelists.
And I'm going to stop sharing just while I vote to make sure that.
Okay, so can panelists vote? Anybody who's on here? No, still can't. Okay, let me stop it and we'll get back. Relaunch, continue. Okay, no, you should, everybody should be able to vote. Okay, so I see there's a few other people. I'm going to bring you in as panelists as well. So vote before you come in, maybe.
Good idea.
Okay, so we'll give everybody a couple minutes. Okay, perfect. So everybody else that's not been brought as a panelist, you declined. If you've changed your mind, send me a message and let me know. So we've got 18 out of 20 voted. So we'll do a quick countdown. Last chance to vote. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. End the poll. And we'll share the results.
Yeah, it was Toronto, Montreal, Vancouver this year.
Yeah.
I-
Yeah, but again, you don't have to get the answers right to get your
Doesn't matter.
CPE. Just have to answer.
Yeah, it shows that you're paying attention.
Exactly.
Is really what it comes
Somewhat,
down
yeah.
to. So going on with the agenda, I do have a few salient points. I'm just going to stop sharing for a minute while I go to my notes. But I want to talk about product, and probably one of, like, these are just my opinions, and I'm very interested in hearing everybody else's opinion. For me, the biggest thing was the acknowledgement about payroll, and that payroll needs work, and that they're going to commit resources to improving payroll. That for me was, I mean, it shows a lot of integrity to admit that, and then to go on and commit to making things better. I thought that was, for me, that was one of the biggest main stage takeaways. And then the other thing that if people haven't explored it, check out the enhanced reporting. At first, I was like, oh, they're changing things for the sake of change. But I attended one of the webinars before going and had a chat with a couple of people at the conference. And I definitely think the enhancements are really effective and are really going to help us serve clients better. There are more customization of possibilities. There's more data fields that you can use. The biggest negative is you have to rewrite all your custom reports, which I know nobody wants to do, but I guess as things change, that kind of happens.
Now, I just like to jump in here for a second too and just add to what you said about, and I was not there for the part where Andrew Smith, but I've heard about it, that Andrew went on and talked about payroll. What I would just like to validate for you guys, because not a lot of people know this. So what's happened is they took payroll away from the Canadian team. The US is working on the payroll. They then came in, and Tiffany Stewart really pushed for this with Andrew Smith. There are 3 Canadians. Andrew DeBrew is one from Intuit, but 3 Canadian pro advisors on the payroll team, and 9 Americans. So you have the voice of Tiffany Stewart, Sherry Lee Mathers, and myself. We meet with them, and we've been doing this all year. We meet with them quarterly for 3 hours and monthly for an hour. And I have access to like anytime I come across something, we've got access to the people that report directly to Andrew. So the Canadian voices are being heard. And any of you that know Tiffany, Sherry, and myself, we are screaming to get this stuff fixed. And we are being very loud and vocal for the Canadians, and we're not letting anything like get past. So we are really, really advocating for Canadians to make sure. And this team is really, really, really good. And they are actually, this is the first time because Tiffany, Sherry, and myself all said the same things. We've helped the product and you guys don't listen. So I will be very open and honest. They are paying us for our time as well, because we were like, if you guys don't listen, like we're not gonna give back, but they are listening, as well as properly investing to compensate to make sure that everybody has been heard. So yeah, we're all represented by people that that hopefully you guys all feel that we represent well. So that is true. I can say honestly that's true. And so
The
there's been talk
important-
about them renewing for, actually, I think it's been since last summer, but there's talk about them renewing it for another year as well. So
I'm definitely feeling represented by those three voices, but
Yes,
I have a question about the enhanced reporting. Jonathan, you said the downside was you have to rewrite all your customer what? I didn't hear the
some
very
of your, I'm not sure if it's all, but I know you will need to rewrite customer reports.
customer
you-
what? I'm not catching that last word.
Reports, if you've done
Oh.
custom reports, you're gonna need to rewrite.
Oh, custom one. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
yeah.
Because it's an entirely new way of pulling the data out of QuickBooks. But when you look at what you can do with it and how you can export it and pivot table it and stuff like that, I think it's really an advancement that was needed for the product to move more into the mid-market with those businesses that have hundreds of thousands of transactions, to be able to work in that way, and rolling it out across platforms, I think, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Now just want to just
Okay,
jump
I
in.
want to hear from everybody.
Sorry, let me just jump in one
Yeah,
second. If
please.
there's any Americans on the call, you guys have great representation as well. You've got Shannon Teese who is on there. And Shannon is only payroll. And so she is very vocal, but there's 9 Americans and Shannon is one of them. So if there's any Americans, you guys are being very well represented as well too. So
Can't even imagine what US payroll is like. I can't even fathom it. I mean,
Well-
I know what the sales tax is like, wow,
well, let
okay.
me just say that some of the product people on the call, I know way more about the US payroll than they do.
Oh dear.
So
Okay.
Can I jump in with what I'm excited about? One of my key takeaways from main stage.
From product?
Yeah,
Yeah, what's up?
the desktop, the QBO desktop version. I'm really excited about the split screens.
Are you talking about the desktop app?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah. Who's using the desktop app? We
I
kind
do.
of were born in the cloud, so we aren't using it. You really like it, eh?
I really do like it. Yeah.
One thing we do at our firm is we try and get one of our team members to explore a possibility and then report back to the team. So that's definitely something that you're not the first person to mention that to me this week. So it's something we got to look into. Um, Anybody else have any product things that you're excited about, happy to hear about, even just something new you learned?
well, sorry, I'm just gonna jump in here in the desktop app. Kim, are you using it? Hopefully she's okay, good, you're back there.
Yeah, I'm eating. That's why I keep taking myself off.
That's okay. So when you use it, because I started to use it again, because I loved it when they first came out with it, then they stopped putting money into it. And now, I started again. There are a lot of apps such as Dext and Zenit Auto Review that have extensions, and Right Tool that I find the extensions didn't work with it. So I stopped again immediately. Are you using any of those extensions, and do you with
You
the
know what? That's a good point, because I'm kind of in the same situation as you, where I was just intermittently using it once in a while, and it's only been the past, I don't know, 3 or 4 weeks that I've started using it kind of consistently, especially because I'm not in my client files all the time. My team usually is, but Tuesdays is the day of the week when I'm definitely in client files for sure. And so I use it on Tuesdays, but I really only use Right Tool when I'm doing some analysis and stuff, not when I'm doing regular weekly work. So I hadn't noticed that the apps don't work in it, but it makes sense because they're Google Chrome apps, right? Or
Yeah, I wasn't sure. Does anybody on here know? In which case, maybe it's again like Kimmy say, you do that for some work, maybe just your higher level work that you wouldn't be using those tools for or whatever, lower.
Yeah, I think if it's not working for my higher level work, then I would use Chrome for those days. But for my regular weekly work, I love it.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
And then another thing that I was excited about, sorry, was that my books is getting
Apologize.
the free version of advanced.
Yes, great point. Yeah, I mean, how are we supposed to sell something we don't know,
Right.
right? And how are we supposed to serve a client if we don't know the advance? So yeah, that's exciting. That's very exciting. All right, let's move on. We are getting on with time. I'm just curious, as I'm sharing, do you guys see like your pictures on the corner and my little bar and stuff, or just the slides?
Yeah, I see it.
Okay. Do you see our pictures and stuff?
I see the picture of the guy in the top right corner. I see your cam. I see your full slide.
That's it. So
You
if,
see all the cams though. You see like Lynn
No,
and
no, I just see the speaker's cam.
and that depends on your own
Oh, okay.
individual Zoom setting. So I have it set so that I can see
Yeah.
the speakers and everybody up top, but some people don't. And that's a personal setting, not your settings,
Yeah,
John.
I changed it.
Okay. Okay. I'm just gonna check when I go back. So I've stopped sharing screen for a moment. I want to talk about some of the trends, the business trends that really popped out to me. Ongoing shortage of accountants for the CPA firms, harder to hire,
You wanna do
um,
problems?
but still attracting people seems to be best based on values and attitude over, throwing money at them and focusing only on qualifications. But the aptitude over attitude, or the attitude over aptitude hires seem to build the best long lasting employee fits, but the compensation needs to be fair. So that was one of my takeaways. And then the other, I had AI on the slide, but there were some great sessions there was one Andrew Wall and Chad Davis did about robotic process automation, APIs, and AI. So RPA, robotic process automation, involves essentially teaching a computer how to take a number of standardized actions. So like it can integrate with stuff on a desktop or a server if you're accessing the server, and stuff on the web. Whereas an API or automatic process integration, it can only work on the web. So think Zapier for API. And I'm going to have to learn more about RPA because that is something that I need. It's something that I want. So that's something. Now, I do have a couple things about AI that I want to talk about. But first, I just want to hear from everybody else. What does everybody else, what were some of the trends that really stuck out to you? Okay, I'm gonna go back to my AI notes then.
I
So,
wonder, Jonathan, if we should maybe determine how many people in the room went to one of the Get Connecteds, because I'm seeing.
that's a good question. Let's take a quick poll. Who raise your hands if you went?
No, that went.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Ross, you were there. 6. No, you weren't there. Easy,
Ross,
easy.
we snuck Ross in for the party.
6 out of
Okay.
22 of us.
Nice. Not that many. Okay.
And I don't
All
want
right.
to be the only one answering your feedback question.
Okay. So I thought the AI discussion was very interesting because it was very practical. And I mean, AI has become a big buzzword, and it's been a big buzzword for a while. And a lot of people are selling AI, whereas it's not necessarily AI. It's kind of its infancy, still in the machine learning state of things. But I thought there were some really good takeaways about how big firms are doing things, and about how small firms are doing things, and about how small firms can get ready to implement AI. And that was one of my biggest takeaways on the trend side. The other one I'll talk about in the business management side. So the big firms, what they're doing is they're creating data lakes, or there's sets of data on internal servers. And then they're going to implement a custom product. I mean, these are, with budgets of millions, right? And people like us, we can't afford those kind of budgets. So there was, I think it was Melissa, I think her name was Gaetano. I can't remember. I sat beside her. I know her first name is Melissa. She was one of the most exciting people I met at this conference. And she's really stated that, the smaller firms are really going to have to rely on the partner implementations of AI. Like when QBO rolls out an AI or Dext rolls out an AI. But that only takes the data set from QBO or from Dext. I personally want to learn more if that comes from our set of data or from the broader set of data. Because I think one of the biggest challenges with implementing AI is the quality of data, right? I mean, as we all know, garbage in, garbage out. So one of the biggest takeaway I had was preparing your own data lake. And that was one of the biggest things. So is ensuring that the data in the lake has been cleaned up and is not polluted with dead, old, or incorrect data. This kind of data can get you false results, or what they call AI hallucinations. So your data needs to be in one place with whatever you're working with. So like if you're working with Microsoft, you need to sort it into a Microsoft situation. If you're working with Google, it needs to be on your Google Workspace. And then you need to be willing to pay to implement their products when they're grown up a little bit. I've explored a little bit on the Google AI, and I love their algorithms, but I mean, the search algorithm is not AI, right? It's not quite the same thing. You don't have that natural language integration at this point that I have seen for my application for a price I can swallow. So that's where I'm at. But I think one of my big homeworks is we're going to go back. We're going to really focus on things like clear and consistent naming conventions, purging old data, or at least segregating old data into a place where it is not going to pollute the answers we're getting when we do implement AI. So was there anything else I missed? Data in one place, clean data, and make sure it's purged and is inclusive. But for us smaller players, we're really going to have to rely on the partners rolling out their product, the AI within their product. So another big thing that happened literally yesterday was the increase this is for Canada, but the increase of the capital gain inclusion rate. And for all corporations, it went from 50% to 2/3 yesterday. And for individuals, anything over 250 is at 2/3 as of yesterday. So that's something that's really going to impact tax planning. And if you weren't here for, I think it was last month's webinar, it might have been the month before, but one of the big things to consider is helping your clients build towards a share sale. The difference in taxes is going to be potentially hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars. So I think that's a big service that on the Canadian side, bookkeepers can really contribute to making sure that their clients are well positioned to get their maximum value on exit. Any other business trends or trending things that people thought were really important from the attendees?
Well, one thing that I seem to find, although I did not go to any sessions, but in discussions, there was 2 panels on it. Kim was there for the panels. There still seems to be a lot of issues around, or concerns, or confusion, or uncertainty, maybe is probably the better word, around pricing.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, and I think that's really,
That
really
leads us really well.
important to bring up, and to discuss and keep discussing, because I personally feel that when you're underpricing you are doing the whole industry a disservice. Those of us that are doing the bookkeeping, it is not data entry. We are doing data management. We are doing so much more. We are keeping them out of trouble with CRA and IRS and whatnot. And there needs to be, the value needs to be recognized with that. So I love that these discussions are continuing to be had. We are having, which I will put up the link here. We are doing a pricing. It is completely free. So this is not a sales pitch, totally free. A pricing workshop. It is going to be 5 hours. I'm doing it with my coach, Richard Rupert Roberts from the US. So it's not going to be just Canadian or just US. It's going to be combined. We're going to do the first was going to be 3 hours. It's going to be boot camp style, a very interactive workshop, though we're going to be focusing on confidence, on all these other, barriers to us pricing properly, as well as some practical, there's going to be some practical takeaways. I've done some changes and we're going to be, I'm going to be bringing those out. My closing ratio is 90% of those I quote 40% of those I speak to. How am I getting to know faster? How am I getting to my ideal client faster? Carol's heard me on some of these calls. And what am I doing? Because this new process I've been doing the last couple months, I've just brought in 91,000 in annual revenue in the last 3.5 months. When this month I've done no work, but I've stopped all the quotes on it. But by doing this new process, I am not doing anything different. But the feedback I'm getting from clients is that I am doing an excellent job of educating them on the value. And that is after they fill out the questionnaire, before I give them a quote, I tell them we're going to talk for an hour. And that hour is going to be part to make sure I have everything I need to give them an accurate quote. Although I already know what I'm going to price them before then, but it is educating them on what accrual accounting is and what they're going to get if, when they call somebody else and they're comparing a $25 an hour versus mine. What is it they're getting? What are the right questions to ask to be sure that they're doing that? And the feedback that I've gotten is that education process is amazing. And they've also said to me that, oh, wow, I actually thought the quote was going to be higher than it was from all that you were filling me in on. So I'm going to be sharing all of that. Then we come back 3 weeks later, roundtable style, for another 2 hours. Sorry, just going to finish up real quick for another 2 hours just to share the feedback and share what happened. So I'll put that link up there because it's completely free.
My timeout was when?
Oh, when? Okay. I'm almost done talking.
Definitely when.
It's in
Yeah.
August.
August. Okay,
and
good.
like I say, it's going to be workshop style. We don't all have the answers. We're going to be really sharing, and those that want to participate, if there's people that are shyer and don't want to participate, that's fine. But it'll be very interactive. August 8th and then August 29th, I believe. I'm going to put the links in. If you guys can't make those dates, we do plan on doing probably one of these a quarter.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah, we're
Tanya.
doing, and that's,
Yeah.
we need to get that. And Richard and I both strongly feel with that, because again, we're doing all of us a disservice, by trying to, fight. We shouldn't be doing that. If we're all charging, for the value, and we're all giving the value, then everybody's going to understand that's just the way it is. They don't question lawyers' fees. Why? They don't
Yeah.
question accountants' fees on the teach. Well, they might, but
They do all the
not as,
time.
I'm just saying not as often as we do in the bookkeeping side, but yeah, it's the same thing. So, okay, I'll share that. Kim, your hand is up.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, at the very beginning, when you started talking about that, you were saying about the pricing sessions and stuff. When I got the survey results from Vancouver, the pricing meetup and the pricing panel were two of the most highly attended sessions. And although I don't have the results from the survey results from Toronto yet, it certainly looked like it was the same for Toronto. I know in the meetup, they had to bring in extra chairs twice at the beginning for the number of people that were standing. And then they actually ended up closing the doors where they weren't letting anyone else in. So we were at capacity for that one.
Yeah, and and I heard things. I was getting people emailing me saying I should have been in Vancouver, and I wanted to make it to the ones in Toronto because I felt I might have had something to offer, but I heard that there was amazing things in that. And but yeah, Toronto or Vancouver people, I got like 4 emails as it was going on, or messages going, you should have been here, Tanya. You could have added to this. But no, I love that, and I heard so many great things that were added from Kim, from Teresa, from
Yeah,
Andrew.
this is
So
the meetup, yeah.
yeah, and you're going to get the exact same result because I heard about it. People were coming up to me, or I just heard people talking about it. That was, to me, again, even though I didn't make it to anybody, that was what I heard more people talking about than anything else.
You
So
know,
kudos to you, Kim, and everybody involved.
being a trainer for pricing, I kind of feel like the message gets over delivered sometimes. We're talking about it all the time, but I always forget there's so many people that haven't heard the message still, you know?
Well, and this is exactly why I've not put in to talk about pricing, because I thought it was the same thing like you. I thought, okay, it's done, it's over, but it's obviously not. And there are so many different ways to price, but it's not about the how to price, it's the why. The why is what everybody needs to take away with the not the how. There's many different ways to do how, but I feel the why is more important than the how. But I've just put the link up there. So
Okay, so let's add this to the why. I've stopped sharing for the moment, I think. I'm not entirely sure. I'm not used to working with one monitor, and it's throwing me off quite a bit. But
Yeah, stop sharing, Jonathan.
okay, good. So I just want to pile on here. Pricing is the biggest impact to profit. Profit is the key factor to driving your price on exit, and the expectation is increasing. When I started, I was really, really lucky when I got picked for that Intuit Accountants Council, because I got to speak to people who were like literally from generational firms like Andrew Wall, and people who were very much at the forefront, like Ryan and Chad. And one of the things that I learned at that point, and this is going back 10 years, is we need to be building businesses on a 1/3, 1/3, 1/3 model. We need to have 1/3 of our revenue is going to the cost of delivery, 1/3 is going to our overhead, and 1/3 is available for owner's compensation. That expectation is changing. So just some keynotes, some key takeaways. Traditional firms are selling for 1x gross revenue, roughly. This is from the Poe Group. And cloud firms are selling for up to 1.75x. Now, there was another source that I have yet to verify that was saying even that split is becoming even wider. It was a US-based source. I need to speak and vet my source a bit, but they were saying traditional firms are down to 0.3 revenue, and cloud firms are up to 4x revenue. When I first started looking into firm valuations, it was like everybody was like between 0.8 and 1.2. And what is the key factor to driving value in your firm? Profitability. What is the key thing to drive profitability in your firm? Price. So it's really, really vital if you ever want to exit and sell your business. Bonnie, how are
can talk
you?
about, Bonnie actually can
Hello.
talk about that because she
Hello.
has done that.
I can actually speak to that.
Like
My
from
firm,
a
I was
experience standpoint.
very experienced standpoint, very recent experience standpoint. As of May 20th, I have officially not a Bonstar owner. So, but from my experience in it, we sold at 1.25 over our gross revenue. So, I had no idea it was going to sell for that, but it did. So yeah, and that just goes to show you kind of where the market is right now for a bookkeeping firm, because that's exactly what we do. We do bookkeeping, a little bit of advisory. The new owner, it doesn't sound like are doing really much advisory, so they're doing strictly bookkeeping. But
That's a great success story. We did work with another firm from out west who exited, and they exited at more than 1x revenue. I don't want to say anymore in case people know who I'm talking about, and that's No, not my information to share, so
Hmm.
I won't share it.
Okay. I
There
was just
was,
gonna say,
sorry.
I believe it was the same person who bought both.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
Yeah.
interesting.
But I just wanted to also add too that what I've got working, which of course is also includes the efficiency, is we actually aim for 70% net profit ratio. I've
Wow.
got a ratio worksheet that we have that's in boot camp that goes through. And if I'm not at 70%, why? Either it's inefficiency, in which case we need to look a little bit more, or it is, scope creep, or we're not priced properly. That's our aim. We are not there for everybody. We've got some that we've grandfathered in, and I'm doing slow increases to get there, but our new ones are at that. And we look at every single receipt. We do not automate Dext. We only use bank rules for like bank fees. That is it. So just to validate, we are not taking any shortcuts on that. We look at every receipt, but we have a lot of, efficiencies built in other ways that can catch other things. But that is, if you are working at full efficiency, people know what they're doing. That's what you should be able to get to between efficiency and pricing. And
That's phenomenal.
we're not the most expensive out there either. I tell people I'm not the cheapest. So if you're looking for the cheapest, let's end this call now. But I'm also not the most expensive. But we back up all our work with we don't charge anything for CRA reviews, but we haven't had a review in over 7 years because
Amazing.
we've got a good note on our file. I actually have 4 friends that are auditors who have told me exactly what auditors are looking for. And I actually like to do, somebody actually wanted to do another one. So maybe we can do that, talk about doing that as another topic of what
I
they're
think that's a
looking for,
great
what they
idea.
don't tell us they're looking for, exactly what they're doing. But they also put notes on our files. And I've said these to people and they're like, Sherry's, when she says, I asked them and they say no. And it's like, they're not going to tell you what they really do and don't do.
Yeah.
They track our stuff. They know. There was a spot where they put, just like when they track a client, they're like, oh, guess what? We just found X number of dollars. We're going to go back and do more. They do that with us, and there's notes on the files. And essentially, apparently, there's a note on our filing code and our firm BN. Don't bother. Unless it's one of the
Nice.
random ones, because I've actually had people that have, it's been pulled and released immediately. So I'll be able to share all those tips and tricks, but it's because they can't. I have never, ever, ever failed a review or an audit ever. And that's why. So we don't spend a lot of time, and we can tell the client, hey, we've got this. So we'll have that
Yeah,
conversation on another call or webinar another day. But yeah, so you can easily, with using efficiency, still doing things very properly, very audit proof, and pricing properly with the big combination of all of it, you can get to 70%. We're at 70%. Pre-COVID, we were at 70% for about 60%. Now we're at about 40%, but that's what I'm focusing on the rest of the summer, is getting everybody repriced and back in there, because my focus was, on reactive, not proactive. So I've got to get back to the proactive.
that's some excellent information. I thought we were doing pretty good with that traditional model, and now I'm like, okay, we have to find efficiency. We need to start driving that profit. We're going to be looking at pricing. Full disclosure, I am now I have joined the boot camp for the July 3rd cohort. I'm very excited to go through that, and one of my
And
biggest
that's where
focuses
you're
is
going to learn
pricing.
how to do that. Is exactly all the
Yep.
secrets of how I get to 70% net profit ratio.
There we are. There we are. Just a couple other things about the firm sales. One, after profit, the biggest attractiveness to a buyer is documentation of processes, having policies and having those policies enforced, and just making sure that when the buyer comes in, when their team comes in, they can see how things are supposed to work and just kind of pick up and make it seamless. So those things are still living in your head. It's important to start getting them down. One of the things that was pretty neat from Ryan's session was possibilities to hire, a virtual assistant to essentially follow you around and document your prices or your processes and then give them back to you, and then you can clean them up a bit. So that was an idea about how to get that documentation done in a relatively inexpensive way. So last couple things about this, okay, I got three more things. So private equity is entering the space. And when private equity enters a space, that trend tends to drive value up. So the expectation is the value, especially of cloud firms, is going to continue to increase, and the value of traditional firms is expected to stagnate. And if you're not in a major metropolitan area, it is expected to drop. So that's something that's very important to understand if you're running a traditional firm. I don't think many people here are. Hybrid firms are a different animal because they're already kind of halfway to the cloud. The sale of small firms. Speaking with Daryl, I think his name was Daryl Boyd from Poe Group. That was the session I went to. He said the sweet spot is really 500 to 800 in revenue. That's 500 to 800,000 in revenue. But it is common to see firms transact that are between 150 and 350,000. He said the biggest problem with Poe Group working with them is understanding and accepting the fees, right? Because I mean, let's be frank, that comes right off your tongue. Another thing that was kind of interesting from that was there was no feedback about the effect on price between asset and share purchase sale for pricing. And I think that is something that we're going to see, but currently it doesn't matter. It's one for one. And as I've said earlier in the call, selling qualified small business corporation shares, you can use the lifetime capital gains exemption and pay no tax on the first 1.25 million. But if you're selling the assets, the inclusion rate went up to 2/3 yesterday. So that's going to have a significant tax effect because a corporation is going to pay tax. You're going to dividend everything out to yourself, maybe over time, but regardless, it's going to come to you eventually and be taxed in that path as well. So, I mean, the tax burden is going to be significant. I love that we got hands up. Bonnie, I want to hear more. You went through this. I want to hear more.
Yeah, so one thing I noticed, like when I was going through the purchaser, going through the motions of our books and anything like that, I found not only was it just the documentation and the processes being in place, but it was also they were looking at the recurring revenue. So they had asked for just say 2 or 3 years of each client on a monthly basis to see, okay, is that client actually doing, you're consistently billing that same client and the length of term of the client. So they're looking at the like how long has the client's been with you, but also the reoccurring monthly revenue, like how many of your clients can they rely on that are going to still continue to be that reoccurring monthly revenue. So because I had a combination of reoccurring and hourly clients. So in my situation, they looked at the reoccurring, but they also looked at, because I have quite a few hourly clients that have been very long-term, like from the start of BondStar. So they look at that and see that there is that reoccurring revenue, even though they are hourly, but that also plays, I feel, a big factor in the purchasing part of things as well. Yeah, because I don't want to see the high turnover of clients as well. No. So unfortunately, a lot of my clients have been around for, well, I was with BondStar for 9 years, 9 months. So a lot of them have been around for 9 years, 9 months with me. So, so yeah, a lot of that comes into play in the decision making I found in my situation. So.
And that makes sense. I think lifetime value, right? That makes sense.
Yeah, precisely. I find it interesting that they looked at the hourly as recurring, but I mean, in reality, it was recurring, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think
reality.
too, because those clients were around for a very long time. So you could rely on they kind of, I think what they probably did is they took kind of, okay, what is on average, what is the monthly income coming from it? because they had been around for so long, those clients. So I think that's
Mhm.
how they kind of looked at it, and then just took an average of what the average monthly fees were on those clients.
That was something else that I wanted to like kind of reinforce. That came up multiple times, was the quality of the clients,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And I mean, this circles back to pricing. If somebody comes to you because you're cheap, they find something cheaper, there's a good chance they're going to leave, and you're going to
Yeah.
have that client churn, right? So brings pricing, brings trust back full circle. But also, there was a bit of discussion about the types of clients, and really what one of the people said was they want boring clients. Clients who it's consistent every month, it's the same thing, and they've been with you for 5, 10, 20 years, right? Like those ones that they can count on sticking around. And that's where the value is. There was a bit of discussion about niche and about client revenue distribution. And so, like, if you had, like, say, a $500,000 firm with 2 clients representing $200,000 of revenue, you are less attractive than a $500,000 firm who, say, has all that revenue split amongst 25 clients or something like that. So that was interesting. And then, of course, the risk of it, right? I mean, if you're only serving crypto, that could be a challenge. Or, if you're only serving an industry that has a high churn rate in itself, such as retail, restaurants, or, some of those micro businesses that pop up. If you're niching in those places, there's a lot of risk for the buyer. So it makes you less attractive. They said, what was it? Manufacturing and distribution were 2 of the favorites. So, Ross, what do you got to say?
Yeah, actually going back to PE, I chatted with a lot of CPAs down the States, and PE is a filthy word with them right now. In fact,
yeah.
they are like employees of firms are already saying that PE, if a private enterprise buys their firms, they're jumping ship because they don't want to work for a private enterprise firm because of the way they are treating firms are buying in the States. And there's already evidence thereof. So just it's an offside to that. It's not
Yeah.
the be all and end all. That private enterprise is a great way to make some money on the currency. At the same time, if you've got employees, you might want to make sure they're taken care of because employees are, except Brian is a friend of mine down in Austin. And he said anything comes anywhere, anything even comes near. Now he's a partner in his firm. The private enterprise comes near his firm, his whole firm, like 2/3 of his firm are going to vote against it. Now, the managing partners, they got the say, but still, they don't want to see private enterprise in account down there at all.
Private equity, for people who maybe don't know what that is, that's pooled money that's managing a large group of businesses. One of the ones that we interacted with before was called literally Big, I think it was Big Hair. They were out of Utah and they were snapping up e-commerce in the beauty industry. And like, no problems, cutting a check for 10 million, 15 million, $25 million. So of course, e-commerce people were jumping on that. They would maintain the brand and internalize services and move forward in that respect. So that was something. And one thing that I think it was Daryl Boyd had to say was that private equity is not gaining as much traction in Canada yet because they tried to bull in. And what Canadian sellers are looking for is people to take care of their clients and their employees. Whereas private equity is just looking to like throw money at it to get a new asset. Tanya, what do you got to say?
So one thing that it's interesting we're talking about this because we just came back from Scaling New Heights, and one of the takeaways from Scaling New Heights is exactly this, that there are mergers and acquisition is becoming a big thing. People are looking to sell and get out, more people are looking to buy. You've got was it that Rachel used to work for Red Rock Accounting or High Rock or whatever? They're still doing that. It is to the point now in North America that Woodard is actually creating a separate department or separate training to help people that are looking to sell their firms and buy firms and kind of have like a match them together. So this is becoming a thing. So it's really important to think about your exit strategy. What is that? Your succession or exit strategy.
One of my favorite quotes of all time is the Alice in Wonderland, the Cheshire Cat. It's like, which way should I go? Well, where do you want to go? I don't know. Then it doesn't matter, right? You got to start with that end in mind. Got to start with that end in mind. I'm not going to get into any of these topics. We talked a little bit about HR. We talked a little bit about practice management. I think business intelligence, I think that's really going to be important from staying up on the news and like by doing what we're doing, going to events like Get Connected, and then starting to look inside into our own firms and trying to get more data about our clients as we have, more data to work with, of course, to understand the type of clients we want, the type of clients who a potential buyer would want. And I think really focusing on having the end in mind. All right, so the last section, I just want to talk about speakers for a minute. I was really hoping Jan would show up today because I think actually, Carrie, you're here. Carrie, when Simu Liu was
Yes, I am.
on stage, he was asked for his local Toronto hotspots, and one he mentioned was pie. Carrie, did you guys end up going to pie
We did.
last night?
We did,
And
and it
can
was
you tell us what it
awesome.
was like? Yeah.
The wait was
Yeah.
a bit of a wait. It's a very popular
Oh.
restaurant in Toronto.
Yeah.
But I was taking pictures and sending them to my partner because it's such interesting looking restaurant inside. I love it. It was like you were in some warm climate or Thailand maybe even, and they had like wood tables with like cutouts of figurines and stuff on it. It was really neat. And at the front door they had their life of pie. Because I guess Pai is a country in Thailand or a province in Thailand. I'm assuming, because their story, it was made on the board, and there were pictures from the beginning, and there was little inserts of writing as to their story of Pai. And it started off when they were a male and a female met, fell in love, had a family, moved to Canada. He loved her cooking. She was an amazing cook. So they opened this restaurant named Pie after their province where they were born and raised, in which they loved and missed. So they brought Pie to Toronto to raise their family, and it was a cute family. I should have taken a picture of it. I missed out on that opportunity, but the food, it was awesome. I had shrimp pad pie, and it was really good. And I asked them on mild because he asked if I wanted it spicy, and I said no because I listened to you. And it was delicious. It was very good.
So
A restaurant that I would highly recommend if you're downtown Toronto.
I've spent about in total 3 weeks in Thailand, and one of the lessons I learned is you never ask for Thai spicy. Unless you love spice, you never ask for Thai spicy. But okay, let's step back a bit. Simu, I thought was hilarious. And I thought his story, I think it was a really good choice as speaker because of his experience of going through and being a Big Five account, going through Richard Ivey, getting that honors business administration from one of the most prestigious business schools in Canada, working at Deloitte, and then realizing, essentially screwing up, getting fired, but being given that opportunity to chase his dream. So I thought he was a fantastic speaker, and I really appreciated Andrew and Chris and the discussion about some of the updates there. Kim, what's on your mind?
I was just gonna say, I really liked SEMO as well. And Get Connected and Ignite are the only conferences I really go to. I haven't been to any of the US ones or anything. But this was the first time that I saw a keynote in an interview format style. Every keynote that I've seen at those two conferences for, I guess, about 8 years is when I've started attending, 8 or 9 years ago is when I started attending conferences. This is the first time I've seen a keynote be interview style. Other main stage people, yes, but not a keynote. So although I think he was great and he was funny and I enjoyed what he said, I would have liked to have heard a little bit more from him rather than
Mhm.
that interview style. I feel like there was a lot more that could have been said about his story rather than just the little one-liner funny things that he was saying here and there.
Mhm.
And that's something that they do in the US quite a bit. I think it depends on the person. I know when A-Rod was on, A-Rod did keynote. When they had Ashton Kutcher, Ashton was more interview style. So they tend to go back and forth, but that's more of a US thing. And I don't know where I never even thought about that, Kim, before you mentioned. I'm like, oh yeah, they have gone back
Yeah.
and forth.
I remember Malcolm Gladwell, I think might have been a learning point, because I think when he spoke, he said a lot of things that maybe they didn't like, and he was just speaking, it was not interview style. But yeah, some of them were like, you're totally right. Like some back, some
It's just
some
that
one way, some the
I've
other.
found it's more of a preference thing for me. I get that it's probably totally speaker
Okay.
driven of what style they want to do. I just discovered it, you know, first time seeing a keynote that way. I've discovered I prefer the other way when they're just talking.
Well, and Ryan Reynolds was that way. He was interview style and he dropped the F-bomb 3 times. I'm like, it takes a Canadian to drop the F-bomb on the big stage 3 times.
Nice, nice, nice. I'm gonna skip this slide because I don't, we're kind of out of time. I want to be respectful of people's time. And we do want to get our CPD. So let's do the last poll question, and then we can see if anybody has anything else they'd like to talk about, or any questions or stuff like that. Okay, I'm annoyed with myself at this question because I want to answer 2 of the 3. So that's me.
Yeah, but Jonathan, you and I, our answers don't count. We don't get CPD for these.
Oh, that's true.
Everybody else does. We don't.
Yeah.
But you know what, with me, while people are answering, I don't make it to a lot of sessions, which is fine. I still end up with almost 100 hours of CPD a year that I do go to because of all the conferences, and then I come back and watch it. So when I'm there, I like to yeah, I like to it's the connections. I find that's where, where I meet people, where Kim and I, we first met my very first Vancouver one, 2015, I want to say. And so we get those connections from there. And then just meeting people, that's where I've actually gotten learned more about the way processes are, sitting down, talking to people one-on-one when there's a session going on. So I really like that. So when people are like, you didn't make it to a session, I go with the intention, I've got all my sessions picked out. And if I can make it to some, great. If not, I'm not too upset as long as I walk away with something of those connections and relationships. So
Cheryl started doing webinars. Cheryl Mandelman, she started doing some webinars for Intuit that are really trying to mimic that. What do you call it? Not, is it idiosyncratic? Like that feeling of bumping into somebody in the hallway and having a chat. And she started doing that. Anna Bruza and I did one. I think it was just last week or 2 weeks ago. That was well received, and that's those kind of things. I mean, don't be a wallflower. I've always believed that 80% of success is showing up. Always
absolutely.
believed that.
Absolutely. Okay. So I'm going to do a quick countdown. There's still 3 people that haven't voted. So your last chance to vote. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and poll. So there's the result for people that are interested. Lynn
Interesting.
said, yeah, no option for not attending. So hopefully people just did something else.
Oh, sorry. I didn't even think of that. Like, oh, I'm sorry. All right. All right. Well, let's just to summarize, we talked a bit about product. We talked a lot about trends, and guess what? We circled back to pricing a lot, and we spoke a lot about driving value for ourselves. And I think those lessons can definitely translate to our clients. I think the better we drive value for ourselves, the more legitimacy and the more authority we have to speak about driving value for clients. So I think it's funny. It's almost like looking in before looking out to help somebody. And then one of my favorite quotes of all times, but well, for the bookkeeping industry. Behind every good business is a good bookkeeper. All right. Any questions, any comments, anything that I didn't mention? There's like, how did you not talk about? Carrie, I posted a bunch of pictures on my Facebook with regards
Okay,
to
cool.
our visit to the Stormcrow Manor on Church Street. And it was definitely, it is a great place for anybody who's otaku or nerd culture. Go check it out. It was originally Dungeons and Dragons themed, but now there's like, you know, Game of Thrones, RoboCop, Star Wars, of
Oh,
course,
nice.
like
Now,
all
they
kinds
did-
of different.
They dished D&D a long time ago. And how was it? Because I, you know, of all the years it's been there, I've never even tried it.
Oh, go. Just do it. Just do it.
It's Church Street. I get there down there all the
We
time.
all
It's
did
just
the-
never tried it.
we did the roll, the D20 for your shot. All of them are.
Oh,
apparently
that's
very-
dangerous. I heard that's very dangerous.
No, it was lovely. It was lovely. I did it for the dinner. That was a little bit more dangerous. I ended up with essentially pad thai with vegan jerk crumble, spinach, and black beans. So it was it was tasty. Probably not something I would have ordered. I probably should have just ordered the pad thai. Kim,
They do roll D20 for dinner?
Yep.
Okay, not doing that. No, no, no.
So I know you skipped over the slide, but if we're time over and people are jumping off, that's okay. I can stay on to chat about it. This was one of my favorite post-event parties ever that Intuit has done. I loved the drag queens. I loved the roller rink. I loved the DJ. I loved even though I'm not a hockey person, I loved that they had the setup to live stream the game for the people that were like, and that they took that into consideration. I loved everything about this after party this time.
And the dance crew was awesome.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
and yeah, that's right. Loved the dance crew too. I loved how they got us. I mean, their performance was great. Then I loved how they got us together on that routine for Footloose. I was like, it was
oh, I
great.
must have missed that.
Although I kind of felt like I was doing a cardio workout
It
at
was.
one of them.
I said that to that exact thing to the party. I was like, this is like a cardio workout.
Most of us could probably use a cardio workout.
They were pretty easy on the eyes too.
All right. Well, it looks like a lot of people are starting to log off. I mean, we do have to respect time. I'm happy to chat some more. If anybody has
Yeah, but
anything else.
I need the channel because Galit and I have an appointment.
Can I tell
Okay.
you? Okay,
All right.
I'm just gonna tell you something. I'm disappointed by I didn't get to meet James.
That will be repaired.
Okay,
Okay.
bye.
All right. Take care, everyone. Bye.